Imagine you wake up to a push notification you think is a prank. Unusual violent attacks, official advisory to stay indoors. Then your street fills with sirens, then with rumors, then with that hush cities get when everyone realizes this is not a drill. Every movie makes the apocalypse look like a single moment. In reality, it would feel like a sequence of small, very human decisions. Do you go to work? Do you pick up your kids? Do you call your parents? Do you stand in line for water, or do you stay home and hope the tap keeps running? This is the story of how a world you recognize could transform into something you could still live in, day to day, if the dead didn't stay dead. Day one isn't about zombies. It's about confusion. Your phone battery dies faster because everyone's calling at once. Your group chat becomes a rumor mill. A friend swears they heard helicopters by the stadium. Another posts a video that looks fake until you notice the timestamp and the location you walk past every week. News anchors stop smiling. They say words like cluster, containment, and community transmission. You make the simplest plan possible. Gather your people, lock the doors, and wait for clearer instructions. By day 3, you learn what matters. Power, water, calm. You realize your home runs on invisible systems. Treatment plants, grid operators, delivery drivers you never meet, data centers you never see. You fill a bathtub because a neighbor told you it's a thing people do. You cook what will spoil. You discover how loud silence is when a city pauses. You hear a dog bark 6 buildings away. You hear nothing from downtown. When governments act, they act in layers. First, emergency alerts, travel advisories, curfews. Then, the chess moves. Closing off bridges, setting up triage sites, moving supplies toward hospitals, standing up shelters in schools and arenas, and asking people to limit movement so first responders can work. Some countries will lean on military logistics, convoys, cordoned corridors, big green tents with generators humming. Others will rely on local councils and community groups who already know who needs insulin and who has a key to the community center. Response shapes the map as much as the outbreak does. Strict, early measures keep islands and peninsulas calmer. Places with strong local networks adapt faster than places that wait for orders from far away. You learn quickly that every geography writes its own apocalypse. Dense city centers are a tangle of stairwells, alleys, and locked doors. They can be dangerous, but they're also full of resources if you know how to move carefully and together. Suburbs stretch and fray. There's space, but supplies depend on roads. Rural areas feel safe until you realize how far you are from a clinic or a working radio tower. Cold regions get a strange advantage. Winter slows everything: people, panic, and maybe the thing chasing you. Hot, dry regions gain clarity too. Heat drives folks to shade, and open sightlines make trouble louder before it's close. Islands that can control ports and airports become quiet bubbles. Border towns become conveyors, some close, some cooperate. After a week, you stop refreshing the feed and start listening. Battery life is a currency. So is trust. The most valuable person on your block might not be the one with gear. It might be the one who stays calm and remembers where the shutoff valve is. In apartments, hallway meetings become the new town hall. You write down names and needs on paper because someone's always missing a charger. You agree on simple things. Quiet hours after dark, a knock pattern for neighbors, how to share kitchen gas, how to check on the elderly on the 3rd floor. The hero of week 1 is the whiteboard wedged on a lobby table. It says, "We're still here. If you are too, add your name." Food becomes less about recipes and more about routines. Breakfast is whatever cooks fast. Lunch is leftovers. Dinner is a group project. You learn that a neighborhood stovetop with 4 burners is better than 10 individual stoves barely used. You make a rotation. You discover that boredom tastes worse than hunger, so you trade spices like secrets and turn mealtime into a daily meeting without calling it a meeting. If the water runs, you treat it like it will stop. If it stops, you get creative. School boilers, rooftop tanks, fountains that you never noticed have a service spigot locked behind a grate. You take turns carrying and filtering. You set clean and not clean zones on the counter because getting sick now is not an option. Communication shifts from casual to intentional. Handwritten notes taped at eye level become the social network. Battery radios you didn't know you owned suddenly matter. People dust off walkie-talkies from a camping trip and agree on one channel. Someone knows a ham operator 2 streets over and becomes the neighborhood newswire. Your phone still works sometimes, but it's a tool now, not a habit. You stop doom scrolling and start time boxing. 15 minutes for updates, then off. Not every scene is grim. People are weirdly good at finding rhythm. Someone drags a piano into a courtyard and plays at dusk. A teacher on your block runs a 1-hour class for kids with a chalkboard propped against a bike. A barista uses a camp kettle and a sieve and becomes the most popular technician in the neighborhood. A jogger becomes the designated runner for the quiet tasks. Check if the clinic is open. See if the pharmacy's back door has a note. Leave a message at the community center. You realize that in crisis, jobs collapse into skills. Titles fade. Can you fix this? Is the only resume question that matters. The first month separates myth from reality. The myth says civilization is a thin crust and chaos waits beneath. Reality says most people try to help, quietly, imperfectly, with whatever they have. The myth says you need a lone wolf plan. Reality says a lone wolf gets tired and misses what a group sees. The myth says the city falls first. Reality says the city adapts fastest because it has practice with crowds, with shortages, with improvisation. But pockets of danger always exist. Places where rumors outrun facts. Where fear feels like a plan, where someone shows up and promises they alone can fix it. You learn to ask for receipts. You learn to say, "Show me then." Meanwhile, the larger world rearranges. Governments and NGOs build corridors, literal lanes where trucks can move and ambulances can pass. Engineers do unglamorous heroics. Keep a substation stable, switch a water plant to a local generator, patch a fiber line by flashlight. Universities and labs form a kind of ad hoc Manhattan project, swapping data, isolating samples, testing every antiviral or vaccine platform they can spin up. News anchors reappear with more honest sentences. We don't know yet. This is what the numbers suggest. Here's what helps. You realize how comforting competence sounds when everything else feels loud. You start to see maps in a new way. Blue dots mean water points. Green dots mean food distribution. Yellow cones mark areas to avoid, not because of monsters, but because of bottlenecks. Your mental atlas includes a new layer, safe routes by time of day. In the morning, Main Street is quiet. At night, the park carries sound too well. You plan your errands like a pilot: weather, wind, fuel, daylight. A good day is uneventful. The metric you trust is weird things are happening less. Communities build rules because rules save energy. Curfew times, porch lights as signals, a 2-knock pattern meaning neighbor, a 3-knock meaning help. Courtyard swaps at noon. Batteries for rice, bandages for breakfast cereal, dog food for dish soap. Price tags stop making sense. Worth becomes usefulness plus urgency minus weight. Nobody wants coins. Everyone wants a working charger. You discover the universal barter chip is goodwill earned by showing up on time and doing what you promised. Reputation travels faster than news. If you're on a coast, you pay attention to the tide chart now. Harbors become both lifelines and liabilities. A well-run pier with a watch schedule and a logbook becomes a miracle. It moves medicine, it checks in loved ones, it keeps fish in the diet. A chaotic pier becomes a rumor machine. Inland rail lines matter more than highways. Bicycles matter more than horsepower. A beat-up bike with a milk crate becomes a delivery fleet. You patch tubes with tape and patience. You rank hills by how much they hurt. Season 1 ends when you stop counting days and start counting projects. Fix the school's water fountain. Move the clinic to the ground floor. Set up a little library box, but fill it with socks, soap, and paper instead of paperbacks. Organize quiet watches on corners just to say hello and notice if someone hasn't opened their blinds. The soundscape changes. The city learns to hum again, slower, lower, but steady. Year 1 brings something else, culture. You invent holidays that mark survival. First light, the day the power came back for 3 hours. Clear night, the first time the sky looked like it did when you were a kid visiting your grandparents. You put strings of lights across the courtyard and plug them into a battery you charged all day with a panel you salvaged. You watch 10 kids stare at LEDs like they're fireworks. You cry without making a sound. Education changes but doesn't stop. Kids become experts at things adults forgot how to do. They know which rooftops get signal. They know the one corner of the playground where 2 radios can hear each other without static. They ask better questions than most news anchors. If the water worked yesterday, where did it break today? If the hospital is closed, where do the nurses go? They learn probability because they have to. They become ruthless about rumors because they see what rumors do. They get good at kindness fast because they watch it work. Work changes too. Some jobs disappear, at least for a while. Others reappear with new uniforms. You never thought the person who repaired your building's elevator would be the one everyone knows by name, and yet here we are. Tailors become medics for fabric and leather and straps. Chefs become food logisticians. Mechanics become therapists for wheel squeaks and rattles that drive people quietly mad. Artists become cartographers of feeling, painting what the news can't quantify. You realize cities don't run on power alone. They run on specialization, and specialization can be remixed. At the national level, some places stabilize. Not perfect, never that, but functioning. Cold climates with small, disciplined populations and strong public systems settle into routines. Island nations with strict port controls run tight ships, literally. Countries with well-funded public health and trust in institutions do better than loud places with perfect plans on paper and fractured follow-through. Regional pacts spring up. You keep the rail lines, we keep the river clear, they keep the hospital staffed. Neighbors matter more than maps. On the edges, frontier zones appear. Areas between safe corridors and no-go regions where the rules are help if you can, be careful if you can't. Think of them like tide pools, temporary, ever-changing, full of odd life. Travelers swap stories at way stations. You learn to love a bulletin board again. Names of people you'll never meet dot the paper with "made it" or "need help" in a dozen languages. A teacher taps a pin into a map over your city and says, "Look, the world didn't end. It just got complicated." Technology doesn't vanish, it adapts. Laptops become print shops and battery labs. Phones become radios, compasses, and cameras for documenting repairs. Drones deliver medicine across a flooded road. Solar becomes less of a buzzword and more of a porch accessory. A tiny panel on a balcony powers 5 lights and a radio. That's a festival. Mesh networks pop up like ivy. Someone 3 blocks away runs a node from a window, and suddenly half the street can check a shared dashboard that says which taps work. You stop caring what the brand is and start caring what the device can do with a frayed cable and a sunny day. Security becomes smarter and smaller. Not movie chases. Not heroics. Just layers of boring, clever precautions. Gates that latch. Doors that close quietly. Routines that make strangers obvious. The magic trick isn't muscle, it's predictability. People feel safe when they know what happens at 9, at noon, at dusk. Safe communities don't look tough, they look organized. And the zombie part? By year 1, you've renamed it. The condition. The infection. The thing. You talk about transmission and exposure the way people talk about weather. You learn corridors to avoid not because they're haunted, but because they're hard to monitor. You don't feel brave. You feel methodical. You carry a whistle more than a weapon. You move in pairs because 2 sets of eyes see twice as many options. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Year 2 through 5 is the arc from survival to society. Trade routes solidify. River barges become the arteries of continents again. Small towns publish schedules like train timetables, but for carts and bikes. Cities open museums of the recent past, and the exhibits aren't grim. They're practical. This is the pump we used when the mains went down. This is the first solar kit we wired wrong and then right. This is the ledger where we tracked who borrowed the drill. The star of the show is a notebook with a coffee stain on the cover, filled with names and trades and 1,000 tiny kindnesses. People point at it and say, "That's how we won." Sports return and they look different. No stadium lights. Afternoon games. A referee with a whistle and a hand-painted scoreboard. The crowd cheers like they've never cheered because they know what it took to get the field mowed and the lines chalked. Music returns in courtyards and quiet bars. Bread returns. The smell of a bakery at 7 a.m. becomes an act of civic faith. Weddings happen with paper flowers and borrowed suits. Funerals happen with real tears and long hugs. You feel the weight of time again, and it feels like a gift. People who left come back. They bring stories of mountain towns where the wind told you who was coming an hour away. They bring recipes for making the same 5 ingredients taste like 10. They bring new slang you haven't heard because dialects bloomed in pockets. They bring news. A port reopened, a lab got closer, a valley planted a second crop and didn't lose it to frost. Travelers are the internet now, and every traveler gets a free coffee and a place to sit while they talk. Education formalizes again. A classroom is anywhere with a chalkboard. Curriculum is what works here. Math looks like inventory. Science looks like water quality. Civics looks like the schedule for watch duty. Literature looks like stories that kept people going when the nights were long. You do still teach Shakespeare. You just teach him next to a lesson on how to build a hand-washing station that doesn't waste water. The kids roll their eyes at both, then get weirdly good at both, then teach the next kids, because that's what kids do. There's a strange peace that follows when you accept a slower world. Not a resignation. A redirection. You measure days by tasks completed and neighbors greeted. You talk more. You stare at sunsets like they're free movies. You learn to enjoy small noises, a kettle whistling, a bike chain clicking, a baby laughing, a dog dreaming. You count fewer headlines and more blue hours. You notice that the city's heartbeat, the generator buzz, the clink of dishes, the hiss of a kettle feels like jazz. Would you be the same person? Probably not. You'd be the version of you that noticed the systems, leaned on people, learned to fix small things, and found meaning in the boring parts. You'd be the version of you that understands resilience isn't about how loud you can be, it's about how long you can keep showing up. The real apocalypse was the myth that we do life alone. The real revelation is that we don't have to. So, if the dead didn't stay dead, what would matter most? Not the big dramatic choices, but the small ones repeated daily. Check your neighbor, label your shelves, share your routine, listen before you speak, walk together, and save power for the night. Civilization is not a building or a flag. It's a million tiny rituals that say, we're still here. And in a world like that, you wouldn't just survive. You'd build something worth surviving for. Tonight, when you lock your door and flip a switch and clean water appears like magic, take 5 seconds and notice the orchestra. The people you'll never meet who keep the lights on. The systems you rarely think about that make your life smooth. The neighbors you can hear if you open the window. In the end, every apocalypse story is a story about noticing. And if we notice now, maybe we never need the story at all. This was Epic Explorations. If you want a part 2, we'll map the safest by design regions of Earth for an outbreak and what daily life in each would really look like, from icy fishing towns to high plateau villages to island ports that learn to run on schedules and sunlight. But for now, breathe. The world is complicated. People are good at complicated. And you are people.